get the recording, and we're good. I want to welcome everyone to the May SAAA meeting. This will be the last meeting until September. The next meeting is going to be on the 6th of September, and hopefully this will be the last of the Zoom meetings. We should be in the Flagler room, and we should be back in business. SAAA will be in business for the summer, so if anybody wants to get a hold of any of us, feel free. We're just not going to have meetings. And I know we're well underway in planning the FAS conference, which is going to be in 2023. So there'll be numerous meetings on that. And again, anyone who wishes to get involved, just let us know. The newsletter went out probably about 2 days ago. If for any reason a member did not get a newsletter, you can contact any of us on the board and we'll check into it and make sure you got it. I see Robbie's on. You got any news from the FPAN section of the world?
I do, Don. Well, I think the main thing we want to highlight is an event we have coming up next week, which is Thursday, May 12th. So a week from this Thursday, we're going to be holding a community conversations out at the GTM NER. And what that'll involve is at 10 o'clock, we're going to have a coastal walk exploring some at-risk sites. And then at 11 o'clock, we're going to have a community discussion. So really kind of digging in. We want to hear people's opinions about, how they think we can tackle climate change on our local heritage sites and what's important to you. And there's also going to be free lunch. So you can't pass that up. So that's at the GTM at the Research Reserve Trailhead Pavilion. I'll put in the chat if anybody wants to come or has any other questions, just email or call Emily Jane and I'll put all of her contact in the chat. So we hope to see you next Thursday, May 12th at 10 o'clock.
And she also mentioned, the flyer says to email her, but today she gave me the direct link. So just for you all, I put it in the chat as well, but you can bypass Emily Jane and just directly sign up.
Okay, so if you want to do that, Sarah, that'd be great.
That happened like 10 minutes ago. So that's
fresh off the press, hot off the press.
Okay, thank you, Robbie. We have two speakers tonight. They need no introduction. The first of which is Sarah Miller. She's a director at FPAN for the Northern and Central Florida District. She's going to fill us in as to what FPAN has been up to in the last 12 months. After her discussion, we'll take any questions, and then we'll see Chuck Mead from LAMP, and we'll hear what's happened in the world of LAMP over the last 12 months. So, Sarah, it's all yours.
Thank you. I think you need to enable sharing so I can share my screen.
Okay, I thought I had done that, but I will do it right now. Hang on a minute.
Otherwise, I'm just going to describe what I'm looking at. It's pretty.
Did you try sharing your screen?
Yeah, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, try it now. It should be all right.
Okay. Well, you've done it, Don. Fantastic. I just have to pick the right slideshow. Well, good evening, everybody. This is a very special talk for me each year, one of my favorites. It's also usually the one leading up to the FPAN board meeting, but that happened earlier today. So it's unusual. I get to gather thoughts a little before this talk, as it's usually my, wow, what happened during the year? And I think Chuck and I were honored to be your first Zoom speakers and now hopefully your last Zoom speakers, and we can all be together next year for this talk and all the others. So we'll be excited to welcome you back at Flagler College. So two things to know, and thanks to Emily Jane Murray, who helped me with the slides today, is it's prom season in our house. So LA had prom, lots of prom pictures, lots of promming happening. And the other thing is Sarah really likes icebreakers at staff meetings. So I'm going to go through some of the highlights of staff. And then I'm going to talk about our new grant project. And then I'm going to tell you about our secret opportunity that is just, you're hearing it first from most of us, except the people who are involved. So exciting announcement at the end. But here's our dear Emily Jane Murray. And she's on the phone tonight. So be sure to text her, chat with her, how great she's looking and how her hair is now reverting back to what it was in high school. And thanks for anonymizing all the dates. We don't want to call anybody out unnecessarily. So here she is back in prom. Where is she now? This year she was out at the NER quite a bit. Here she is at Wright's Landing, and she is capturing 3D data along with our consultant Bart McLeod, who's been a mentor in 3D scanning and printing and all things digital heritage. So it's great to have them out, but both Emily Jane and Emma have become just really amazing digital heritage experts in their own. So here she is doing some of the baseline scanning out at Wright's Landing for 3D models, where we'll be able to do volumetric comparisons. We're hoping to see how much shoreline is being lost. So hot in the field. And another photo of her, she got to go help out at Yahala one day, and Yahala dig, and she is so happy she found fish scales in her pit. So if you too were a part of finding any of the fish scales, you can be post partners with her. But she is really happy, and she started volunteering with the city on Fridays, which is just really great to go be more part of the city program than we've been in a little while, helping out in the lab and on this occasion out in the field. Emma Dietrich, who works in our office, here she is, going to prom years ago. Where is she now? She is a wonderful 3D printer and a comparable, look at those manicure with slipwear dots on them. She's coming along in both regards. This is a 3D model of Bulow that we all worked on to do the scanning, including some drone footage to get over the top of some of those chimney bits. And this model is so big. It's bigger than her head. It's like 6 times as big as her head. So she will have that at FAS this weekend. And we're hoping to give a lot of these models. They've been in the hands of the land managers, but coming up with ways to use them in classrooms and other activities. And I believe she's going to have 10 little was to go out and verify canoe. Yes, definitely a canoe, and get some measurements, and they will be out to further document it. Here's Cassie Kemp, whom some of you may not know, as well as some of the other staff members, but Cassie is an integral part of the team and has worked for FPAN for like 10 years. So she's now our full-time database manager for the Heritage Monitoring Scout photos program. She has 2 prom photos, so this is just one of her 2, but just imagine her now all dressed in blue, and it's very similar to the experience of seeing her other prom photo. Where is she now? There she is at the helm. Screens are ready to help answer any questions you may have about HMS and the database and how to enter things. Cassie was really restricted under the state's grant, the special category grant, and couldn't do a lot of education and outreach and working with the public. I know, but now she's unrestricted, and she is available to us to help with a great variety of things, including improving communication and improving the pipeline of getting volunteers out to sites now that it's also safe after the pandemic. So that is Cassie. And here she is out doing some shoreline documentation, and it was hard to find a picture in the field of Cassie's face, and Emily Jane did the best she can because she does always wear this very specific brimmed hat. So that is the essence of Cassie in the field, and we hope to fly her in to come visit and ground truth some of the things she's been looking at as she now lives in Austin, Texas. I don't have, Robbie, still the prom photo of you exactly, but this is Robbie's 40th birthday party. And she said, just bring something you haven't worn or something fabulous. And this is Robbie in her prom dress at her 40th birthday party. There's me. I'm hiding behind a face right there. So where is Robbie now? I know some of you work with her more often than I even get to see her, but she's been doing a great job doing some cemetery recording. This picture I think is out at Nombre de Dios, but she is just wrapped up the Pinehurst recording. We're really excited because some of these we've sat on the reports for a while, and maybe we just didn't have the right tools to put together for the best possible product. And all those stars are aligning right now using Cassie and potentially even GIS students at Flagler to get their reports done, but also potentially some online publication with some maps or some interactive features, and also some genealogy that's going out for San Sebastian and Pinehurst. So big thanks to the volunteers who have been out with her on Thursdays this spring, and we'll give her a break over the summer, but in the fall she'll probably pick up and pick another project. So if you have a cemetery to nominate, she's done Nombre and San Sebastian and Pinehurst. We'll get those reports done this summer and she'll head out to the next one. And this is her. We have some good stuck in the mud days, the fluffy mud of the. She was also going to be part of, as Dawn mentioned, the hosting FAS, and has been going through bureaucratic mud for you, trying to get some of the rooms aligned over there at Flagler College. And I know, last but not least, and I think it was Emily Jane who said, is this not the most 80s picture you've ever seen? There's me and my prom date, Bryce Whittam. I know where he is now. Where am I now? I'm very proud that we've had a really good partnership emerge during the pandemic with the Gullah Geechee Nation. And this is Representative Glenda Simmons-Jenkins. And we are so close now that when I set my out of office reminder, like I'll be out of office, people get that when they email me. I know I actually have to call Rep Jenkins and let her know the dates I'll be out, because I don't want her to not be able to find me in an emergency or know that I'm going to be away. We have really frequent correspondence. For Friday night, if you are at FAS, come to the Stewards of Heritage Award ceremony. She is our winner of the Stewards of Heritage Award this year for helping document 20 sites up in Nassau County. There's a list of sites, and this has been part of a cadence of meetings that we have with her. So thanks to Emily Jane, to Cassie, to others that helps with the maps and the forms and the follow-up. But it really all starts with her, and we are aligned to her priorities, and we are really grateful for the information that she's sharing with us. And we have a co-authored, I have to pause and explain this. So if you haven't seen the Tide is High video that we recorded during the pandemic, just an effort to show, there's no length I won't go to help promote site stewardship and my feeling of this topic in public archaeology. So maybe we should have a special night where we view the Tide is High video. Apparently Blondie has some trademark issues with her music being on YouTube, so we can't just post it, but all the staff was involved on a very dark day during the pandemic, and we reshot close to scene for scene, thanks to Emily Jane, the Tide is High video. But on a serious note, I've been working with site stewardship programs across the country, and the Nevada SHPO, Samantha Rubinstein, she did a survey and had 7 programs that she really got all the details of how do these different state stewardship programs operate, how do they work with the volunteers, is there a coordinator, what are the forms they're using, how often do they meet, that kind of thing. And we're redoing that study right now, and we're up to 28 programs across the country and looking for more. So if you know of a good site stewardship program where there are volunteers that go out and check on sites, then that's a perfect fit for us, and we want to get that into the research framework, and we're doing follow-up questions now. So more to come on site stewardship as we further along with HMS. Here we are looking fabulous, ready to go to the Flagler Christmas party. So we are still at the cottage. If you haven't been there in a while, we've done a lot of reorganizing. It's usually Robbie that's there. We're still often out and about, but we'd love to have you come by and see the office, come see some of the 3D prints, and it's just going to be great to start seeing everyone more and more. And this was us a couple weeks ago at Emma's party when the question of what Ellie was going to wear to prom first came up, and we raided Emma's closet, and that's Ariel from LAMP who was there as well, and just shows we're down to business, formal, serious business, but also have some fun too. So moving to second portion of my talk tonight, our old grant, Department of State, there's really just two things I want to say about it. It's done is the main thing. And now we're really interested in digesting the results and what we found out to the public in a way that people understand why this was worth doing, what information we got. And it was a special category grant. We just heard today that they're going to fund the full list of special category grants once signed by the governor. So that is great for preservation in our state. We had a difficult time with ours on top of the pandemic and some other issues, but these results are so important, and thank you to everyone who helped with that. If you can scan it, you can look at the blog post that has this graphic on there, or come by FAS and see our poster, which has got some of the same results digested, but I posted this online. I can share that as well. As to what's next, our new grant, if you haven't heard, the Science Collaborative Grant, is many partners. This is our first logo, just got agreed upon this morning. So you are official eyeball consumers of our new logo for the People of Guana project. And you know what? Let me go to video, and if my connection stays good, I have one gamer who's out at coffee and the other one who's sleeping. So I hope I have good connectivity.
For over 6,000 years, people have called the
Sorry, you may want to mute Tony. I think she's coming in. All right, here we go.
For over 6,000 years, people have called the Guana Peninsula home, largely due to the bountiful natural resources of the estuaries that surround it. Now, these natural and cultural resources are at risk from impacts of the climate crisis. Just some of the over 11,000 known heritage sites in the southeast alone predicted to be impacted or destroyed. By combining archaeological investigations and applied anthropological methods, the People of the Guana project aims to capture how people have used these resources historically, how they continue to use them today, and how they can respond to the threats the heritage sites are facing through 2100. The heritage sites, given the looming impacts from the climate crisis, including flooding, erosion, and changing shorelines. The project will follow the research pipeline developed by the North American Heritage at Risk, or NAHAR, working group, completing cycles of modeling, monitoring, meeting, methodizing, and mitigating. Modeling will focus on the Guana Peninsula and surrounding watershed and include sea level rise, SLAM, and archaeological triage assessments to help identify the most threatened areas of the landscape. Monitoring efforts will utilize the Florida Public Archaeology Network's Citizen Science-Based Heritage Monitoring Scouts program, or HMS Florida, to help ground truth these models. The team will also collect data on potential shoreline changes using GIS mapping and 3D modeling technologies. Descendants, local community members, and other stakeholders will be able to provide input on cultural resources through a stakeholder survey, follow-up interviews, and focus groups. The team will use all of this data to methodize and guide mitigation work, including...
Hold on, I'm gonna drag it.
The The team will use all of this data to methodize and guide mitigation work, including excavations at archaeological sites across the peninsula. The project team is headed by staff from the Florida Public Archaeology Network and Flagler College. Project end users include the GTM Research Reserve, the Timucua Archaeological and Historic Preserve, the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission, and NAHAR, with other stakeholders including the Seminole Tribe of Florida and the Gullah Geechee Nation. Public products will include an ArcGIS story map to curate the data online and a traveling exhibit on heritage at risk. The 3-year project is sponsored by the National Estuarine Research Reserve System Science Collaborative through funding from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, managed by the University of Michigan Water Center.
And thanks to Emily Jane for putting that video together. And I apologize, those technical things were completely my fault of my mouse skipping around. The important thing about this project is seated in this collaborative science mindset. And look at these green words: respect, inclusivity, humility, patience. These are things I want to imbibe in my own life and include, and just to have everyone involved. So we really hope that a lot of SAAA members will find their way to the NER and participate and come out with us. We've had a couple open field days, and as Robbie mentioned, an event coming up. I wanted to see, Emily Jane, if you're able to post the survey link if you happen to be there. Otherwise, I will do so when I'm done. This is our pipeline that we're using, and just some details on meeting, methodizing, mitigating. So more than likely there's a place for you in almost all of these activities, except maybe the modeling, because Lindsay's done all. We kind of had to have that to start off, but on ground truthing, the modeling, that's going to be important too, and getting input on what's going to happen. And we're focusing on 4 of these areas close up so we can do some mitigation. Dr. Lori Lee will be helping us out this summer and doing some survey. We're hoping to have public days and days people can come out and participate, and then more days as the years go on. This is a 3-year grant. So this is us. We have a new truck, and we got Frida out to go on survey. So we're out doing our great walkabout. And the survey, thanks Emily Jane for posting that in the chat. If we would really invite anyone on this call to take this survey and share it with friends, because it will help us in the methodizing process of where we're going to focus on and look, because we want to do this with community input. So Ben Marwick at University of Washington, he's just top notch in this data science world, so he's going to be helping us understand the results. But if anyone's able to take the survey, share it with your friends and relatives, it would be really great to have a robust turnout for this survey. As Robbie mentioned, the community conversation is happening May 12th, and previously this was held in 5 or 6 areas of Florida, including the St. Augustine Lighthouse. If you have been before, we really hope you'll still come out to the NER, because it's a different walk, a different conversation every time we do it, and we have some updates to share. And again, this is part of this research project, and those notes will go into our report back to NOAA and help us with methodizing. So you may see this flyer getting circulated about, but free lunch we mentioned, coastal walk, come hang out, that would be great. It's Emily Jane using our Snowball, which is a good tool for doing hybrid meetings, we found out. And the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, their partner meeting is coming up first week in June. So I've been invited to go and speak for 5 minutes about our project, and we have a focus on Gullah Geechee community as well, 2nd year of the project, so that will only increase. So getting through the methodizing. One thing I thought you all would be interested in is this has caused us to go back and look at collections of what is from the NER that's already in Tallahassee in the boxes, and some of them have not been seen or looked at in a long time. Emily Jane was really impressed by the inclusion of marbles. We hadn't really thought about young or children out there, or who might be gaming out at some of the sites. So that added a new layer for us. This thing is called schist. And I don't know if you've seen it before. It's like silver micaceous. I didn't know what it was. I've never seen it before. And that has come out of collections that were at the NER, as well as pieces of pottery, some of them in context, because most of the time we are dealing with surface finds out at the NER. So when we are going to be doing some systematic excavations out there the next 3 years, we can expect more larger pieces and with good context. So it was interesting to see what they have recovered from improved context than just the surface finds that we see. Okay, final wrap up is to talk about scape and shoreline mapping and archival work. You may remember the time I went to Scotland and got really energized by their SHARP program, monitoring heritage at risk and using an app. It's really the foundation blocks for what Heritage Monitoring Scouts became. And this is Joe Hambley. You'll remember Tom and Joe, they have been here and spoke to you. Maybe it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, this very talk. So we were glad to have them there that May. Here we're taking them into the Everglades. No, this is not their prom attire. I couldn't get a prom photo of them, but glad to have them in our lives. When I was in Scotland, one of the things I saw was the use of the Arrow. It's probably Arrow 100. It's got the antenna in Alistair Rennie's hat, and it's connected to iPad, and he's doing the thing, and that's exactly connected and are using on your head, as Kelsey knows, as many of you know. But now with the app, you'll be able to do more. So we're gonna go over there this summer and get some more time with Tom and Joe, get some more inspiration from activities they're up to, and then the secret. But Tom and Joe have asked us to help them document. This is Loch Fleet. It is a ship graveyard of Zulu boats that were made in Embo in Scotland, and what exists are the stem and stern and the keel in between. I hope I got that right, Chuck. You can clean up that language after. So they're out mapping these boats that are at low tide visible. This is a past project, and I was able to visit the site there, so we're going to go and help them document the site again with the public and using some new tools that we hope to bring back here and share with you all in St. Augustine in Florida. And then finally, it'll give us a chance to get into the archives in Scotland of the Grant papers, the Grant Villa papers. So we're excited to get in there. There are some copies potentially of maps, but we want to request and get good ones to take back, and just anything we can bring back and add to the project and our layers of understanding out there. It's just kind of coincidental. It's a good opportunity though. So we'll look forward to reporting back from there. And if you have any questions, let me know. And I'm honored to be here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, you can unmute yourself now and ask Sarah. We'll give you a minute to do that while Chuck gets warmed up. Okay, let's switch over to Chuck. He's a director over at LAMP. I know they've had quite a few discoveries there over the last 12 months. So Chuck, it's all yours.
Hi guys. It's great to be here again. This is, like Sarah said, one of the highlights of the year, being able to talk to the SAAA membership. Such a wonderful archaeology-minded community, and it's always a great pleasure, and you guys always provide us so much support. So it's a lot of fun letting you all know what is going on. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay, good.
good. It's not the presentation, but if you click on it, it'll full screen. It's good.
Okay, so you can see my first slide, yes?
Yep, you're good to go.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. This is like the third lamp in the time of coronavirus talk that I have given to SAAA. It's kind of crazy to think how long it's been that we've been dealing with the pandemic, though it seems like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, at least for LAMP. We weren't able to do any diving for about 2 years, and we had some grants that really depended on us being able to do field work. And so we are now at a point where we are back in the field. In fact, if it looks like I was out on the boat today and diving in really deep mud deposits at the bottom of the St. Johns River, and I just came home, threw some slides together, and without taking a shower, put on a nice clean shirt, that's exactly what happened. So we have been out working, and we are going to be working straight. We have a lot of field work to catch up on. We have to say goodbye to our friend and colleague, Nick Budsberg. I know a lot of you know Nick. He was on the SAAA board. He was a real boon for us at the Lighthouse and at LAMP and brought a lot of experience, and he will be sorely missed, but he will be the newest director of the St. Eustatius Center for Archaeology. I didn't quite say that right. Center for Archaeological Research. So Nick will be down in the Caribbean on the island of St. Eustatius, managing a research program, and so he will do a wonderful job at that, we know, and he's had some great experience that he can take with him from St. Augustine. So we will miss him, and we will be figuring out how to get a replacement for him. But right now we're just going to try to get through our field season and really through the end of the year because we have so much field work ahead of us. So to go over some of the work we have been doing last year, our first major project, we weren't diving yet, but we got back in the field once most of us were vaccinated, and before we realized that you could still get COVID even if you were vaccinated, those halcyon days. But we participated in the excavation of Fort Mose with the University of Florida and Flagler College. I don't think I have to tell anybody in the SAAA what an important site Fort Mose is, and of course it is the first free African-American settlement in our country, and so it is of such a great historical and archaeological importance. It was a real honor to be able to work there, where Kathy Deegan and others have tread before and worked side by side with some wonderful colleagues like Dr. Lori Lee and Liz Ibarola and Dr. Davidson from Flagler, University of Texas, and University of Florida. We assisted with the field school. In fact, we were able to help make the field school happen. We got some worried texts and phone calls, and we heard that the UF Flagler Field School was not going to be able to walk through the marsh to access Fort Mose, which is kind of on a peninsula. It's almost more like an island out surrounded by creeks and wetlands. And so we literally, as Dr. Davidson was composing an email telling his grad students he wasn't going, the teaching assistants, that he wasn't going to be able to pay them because there was going to be no field school. And I called up Davidson and we made it happen. So LAMP provided boat support. So that's what we're good at, logistics on the water. And so you can see here, this is our little 13-foot boat, the Indy, full of archaeological gear that is needed on Fort Mose. And we also brought people out every day of the project. So we had to do a number of small boat loads to get everybody onto the island so that then they could dig and do archaeology. And we were still working on our research design and permits for underwater excavations at Mose, but we were able to do some terrestrial or amphibious excavations using the permits that had been acquired by the Flagler and UF principal investigators. So we actually did some shovel testing on an area of high ground, a little bit of a distance from the main site of Fort Mose. And we were, you can see there's Ariel and some of the UF students who were helping us out screening. Pretty mucky. It quickly went from being terrestrial to underwater in these units because we're so close to the water level. We did find a chunk of iron at one of these, and we were essentially kind of testing this area of high ground to see if it had some kind of habitation use or possibly was even related to the first site of Fort Mose instead of the second site starting in 1752, which is the known site. And we did find an iron concretion, but when we x-rayed it, we couldn't tell what it was. So it's probably man-made, but still pretty inconclusive. This is a map showing the outline of the fort there in blue. So of course the fort is no longer extant. The archaeological units that have been excavated by Flagler and UF are shown there. And we, I don't know that you can see my mouse if I move it around, but we worked on a unit that was right on the margin, right in between kind of terrestrial and maritime context. Kind of straddling the shoreline, which is being eroded away. And there we are showing the UF and Flagler folks how LAMP does water screening, actually being in the water. That's what we're used to. This is the unit that we excavated, and you can see it has quite a slope to it from the upper ground down the mud slope towards the water. And so it's quite interesting measuring the levels and things like that. Our first level was just barely a corner of that unit. And we found that we needed a working platform to be able to safely access that. So we rigged one out of a ladder and plywood so that then, and you can see the reason why. Look at this cracking in the mud, just from erosion, which we would have really exacerbated if we were mucking around there. And that's the corner of our unit marked in string there. Here's another shot where you can see people standing up top on the kind of ground surface, and then where our unit is and the mud kind of caving in there. So we stabilized that with sandbags, and that working platform really helped us be able to excavate by hand. And there's Nick on the walkway, our little bridge, and I'm in the background screening sediment that we have been digging up. FPAN came out, always wonderful partners, and they helped us do some 3D modeling of our unit. So we will return. We didn't quite finish it, and once we got down, in fact, you can see at a decent high tide, a really high tide, there's our walkway underwater, and the unit can actually flood. So once we got down to parts of the unit that were inundated, we needed to have our underwater permit. And so it's pretty complicated when you're digging underwater. We have to get a permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We have to get a permit from the Florida DEP, and we have to get the standard archaeological permit from the Bureau of Archaeological Research. And we've gotten the first two of those, and we should be getting our archaeological permits very soon. The first two have to be issued first. So it's complicated, but we're quite close, and we're planning on being back in just a week or so, being back at Mose. And this time we are planning on doing, we'll finish that unit that you saw earlier, but we will also be doing some digging actually underwater where we're pretty much fully submerged. Now, if you saw me sitting in that creek, that's the creek on the left side of the peninsula that you can see in this image. It's pretty shallow, so we'll probably be in, depending on the tide, we'll be partially submerged. But on the right side in Robinson Creek, there's a little bit of a deeper water, but you can see the footprint of the fort extends out into the creeks and into the wetlands. And so we're going to be doing the first underwater excavation at Fort Mose. We will be starting on the 11th of May, so we will be working side by side again with our colleagues from University of Florida, Flagler College, and now University of Texas, now that Liz has graduated, and she is Dr. Ibarola, and she's the newest faculty member at University of Texas. So 3 universities as well as LAMP will be working together to excavate on land and underwater. And that's a pretty unique situation. I don't know how many times that has happened before, but not very often. And we will try to mirror the techniques that they use on land, everything from artifact cataloging to digging in the same levels, and of course using the same grid system that they have established. So we'll try to do everything the same way, so it'll basically be a seamless excavation from the terrestrial down into the water. So I'm really looking forward to doing more work at Fort Mose. Now, the Crescent Beach wreck, we'll switch gears and we'll go to the beach now. I talked about Crescent Beach wreck last year when I gave this talk to SAAA because it was discovered in November of 2020. We came back in late August, right after Fort Mose, and basically all of September in 2021. And we had kind of had to modify our grant, so we wanted to add some sites that we didn't need to dive on. And so this is one of the sites that we added to our Hermidams grant. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But this is one where we put an all call out for all hands on deck from SAAA and all of our other volunteers. And we had a wonderful response because you can see right in front of the Summer Haven condos, that little area that we have dug up, that's from 2020, quite close to the water, of course. But we had found out that the beach replenishment was going to happen and they were going to start at the other end of the beach than they had originally told us. This is the St. Johns County. And so we realized that our shipwreck was going to have a whole bunch of sand dumped on it. And so now was the time to excavate. So we had a lot of SAAA volunteers and a lot of other volunteers come and help. And everybody got to see what it was like to dig on a shipwreck without actually having to scuba dive under the water. So it was completely buried. The wreck had been exposed back in 2020, but had been reburied. And you can see that we began to excavate just right there in the sand and began with a trench that turned into a pit. And you can see some timbers appearing there. We have some tents set up because even though it was September, it was quite warm. And you know, it was still basically summer, of course. We then, you know, as we expanded our hole bigger, we had to protect people from the sun and protect the shipwreck from the sun. So we used tarps and had to get new tents as the wind shredded our old tents. But a lot of effort was put into this. So you can see where we would have people digging with shovels in the sand and filling up tarps with small piles of sand that two people could drag to a spoil pile. So it was quite a process and involved a lot of manpower and muscle power, but we made it work. We had all kinds of volunteers, and again, many SAAA volunteers of all ages. There's Courtney there, and some other faces that you may recognize. From high school students to grandparents, a lot of Flagler College students, a lot of other, we had UF students drive over from Gainesville. So it was a wonderful group effort. And you can see more and more of the shipwreck was exposed. The more we dug, you can get a feeling for how deep we've dug. You can see the kind of sand wall in the background there. So that's at least waist deep below the sand level if you're standing in the pit. We even did stop motion photography. So we have a lot of, we need to put that together to make a video. It's pretty cool. But these were taken on the 17th of September. And you can see how the lighting changes as this camera was running all day long. And we eventually got the entire shipwreck exposed. So what you are looking at is the bow section on the port side of a ship that was cast ashore, probably broken apart, and this is a piece that was cast ashore, we believe, in the late 19th century. This is the aerial view of it taken with a drone. And so if you look at the right side of this image, you'll see that there's kind of a curve from the bottom. It kind of curves up. That's the bow. That's the curve that goes from the keel to the stem of the vessel, the forwardmost timber of the vessel. So that stem is missing from these hull remains. but you can see those plank ends. Those plank ends were cut. You can see they're kind of cut at an angle. They were cut to fit into the stem. So we have almost the forwardmost timber of our ship. So imagine that you were looking on the inside of the port side or the left side of the vessel, and you can see some of the ribs or frames. You can see the planking on the outside, and you can see some heavy duty stringers that were on the inside of the frames or the ribs. And so this is a good chunk, maybe 25 feet long or so, a good chunk of a vessel that was probably much longer, 100 feet or more in length. So we have a decent section of half of this ship, from almost the lowermost timbers to maybe almost the upper deck, but not quite. We believe we have identified this vessel as the Caroline Eddy, and I've shown some of these newspaper accounts before, and I think I read them very dramatically last year to you all, so I won't reread them, but they're great stories. The Caroline Eddy wrecked in 1880, in August of 1880, and it made the news all over the place. The ship was built in Maine. This is from the New York Times, so we had papers off from Florida to Maine talking about this story, and it was quite a hurricane that wrecked a lot of ships, and the Caroline Eddy had taken on a cargo of lumber, and we had hypothesized that she might be a lumber ship from the robust nature of her timbers, but she had a cargo of lumber she had taken on in Fernandina, and she was sailing north, either to Philadelphia or to New York. We have differing accounts, and she ran smack dab into the hurricane and was driven to the south, where she eventually came ashore miraculously with no loss of life. The men had to cling into the rigging like for 3 days straight, as the ship just was driven by the storm, and they had no way to control or steer the vessel. So it was amazing that they made it ashore. The ship was, it's been called a brig or a brigantine. Those are two slightly different rigs. You can see the brigantine on the right has some schooner sails or fore and aft sails on the after mast. So you'll see some of the sails are a little different towards the rear of these two ships. She was built during the Civil War in Maine to be a supply ship for the United States Army. And she was 317 tons, 110 feet long, 26 feet wide, and 11 feet deep depth of hold. Now, we believe this is likely to be the Caroline Eddy. We are not 100% sure. Basically, nothing we found in the hull remains would refute her identity as Caroline Eddy. She certainly seems to be built to be a robust cargo carrier, like a lumber ship. That's probably the way you would build a supply ship for the Army during the Civil War. It's about the right size. It's in the right place. Caroline Eddy wrecked at Matanzas, or just a little bit north of Matanzas, which is exactly where this ship was. And we have accounts saying that the ship, at least pieces of the ship, came ashore, and they likely would have come ashore right where we have this shipwreck. So there's no way to know for sure, but we're fairly confident we have the Caroline Eddy. And here's a painting that we've found online, and our colleagues at the Penobscot Marine Museum in Maine allowed us to use this painting that's in their collections to show you all. And this was off Palermo, I think off Sicily, when this painting was made. So this ship sailed all around the world before she finally met her fate off Matanzas, or close to Matanzas, at Crescent Beach, the southern part of Crescent Beach. Now, some of you may remember that we had some wreckage from a World War II plane come up. This was in my talk last year as well. And at the request of the Navy, this piece of a tail from an F4F Wildcat was brought to the St. Augustine Lighthouse, where our conservators are stabilizing it very passively right now. And it could eventually go on display. We'd have to work with the Navy to make that happen, but they seem amenable to it. But this was kind of coincidental, because we had recently submitted a grant to do some World War II related research. And so This was kind of a fluke that this came up right when it did. And then it turns out that we got our grant. So in addition to our big grant, our Hermidams grant, we have a grant to go to Green Cove Springs, where there was a naval air station during World War II, and do survey. And this is where I was diving today in the St. Johns River. So we had planned to start a little bit earlier than April, but all of our remote sensing equipment, our side scan sonar and our magnetometer, pretty much everything broke. So we had to get some new gear and to repair some of the gear we had. But this entails about a month of survey, and then we've just recently started diving. So we did 20-something days of survey and then maybe 9 days of diving. We'll be finished with our diving on the 9th of this month, so it's just next week. And then we'll bring our boat back from Green Cove Springs up the St. Johns River and then back down the intercoastal or offshore to get back to St. Augustine. And then the very next day we will be at Fort Mose. So we don't even get a break between our survey in Green Cove and working at Mose. This is a map of the St. Johns River. So at the bottom right, that's the Shands Bridge, the 16 State Road 16 bridge across the river. And I don't know if, oh, wait, I accidentally went forward. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but they're in the center of the screen on the southern bank. You can see those little lines that go straight out. Those are docks that were built during World War II. Our survey area is the dotted black line out into the river. You can see 2 rectangles. So that is the area that we have surveyed. And that area is immediately off these docks. And you can see how many ships were tied off to these docks, and then you can see the airstrips at the bottom of the picture. So during World War II, this was really a major training site for aviators. So there's a lot of planes that took off and landed here, and at least one we know of crashed in the St. Johns River. It's possible we could find more. And then you can see all those ships that are tied up there. Towards the end of the war, the Navy decided they would mothball their fleet at Green Cove Springs. And so eventually 600 ships were tied off to those docks and then rafted together off of really big moorings that are offshore. So our survey area was just off these docks and included all of the moorings that were there historically. So we have surveyed a large area of this river, and we're just beginning to dive on targets. Here's another photo showing how many ships were moored at Green Cove Springs at this time. There's an awful lot of them. I told you before that we knew of one downed plane that was discovered by the St. Johns County Sheriff's Department, and they dived on it and realized that it was not a crime scene or a drug plane or anything like that, but that it indeed was a World War II era plane, another F-4F Wildcat, just like the tail section that we have at the lighthouse. The Archaeological company Search did a survey in conjunction with the construction of the new bridge, the new Shands Bridge or 16 bridge, and they discovered what looks like a landing craft. So at least one naval vessel has sank in these waters, and we are wondering if maybe some more have sank. We've heard stories of jeeps being pushed overboard. We know a lot of debris and material culture from World War II would have just been dumped overboard, and we may have had some accidental sinking. So those are the kind of things that we are looking for. There is LAMP's newest archaeologist, Ariel Cathers, who is showing off our pride and joy, our brand new side scan sonar. This one is made by the company Edge Tech. Our old sonar worked hard for 15 years before it finally appeared to be beyond repair, and so it was time to get a new one. And then on the bottom right is our magnetometer. That one has been working hard for 15 years. It stopped working, but we were able to get it refurbished, and so it is now working like a champ again. And like I said, we've been going out for 20 days. Here we are, there's Dorothy Rowland and Ariel dropping our sonar into the water. We tow that on the side of our boat so that it's just under the water and can't get into our own propeller. That would be a bad thing. But it's below the bottom of the boat so that it can shoot out sound waves on either side and scan the bottom of the river. And then Ariel is perhaps pointing to where our big discovery will be, but there is the magnetometer that we deploy off the stern of the vessel. So the magnetometer detects the Earth's magnetic field. So basically, it's giving us numbers that are telling us the intensity of the magnetic field. If there is nothing at all on the bottom of the river, which is certainly not the case, but if you had nothing magnetic, then you would have a nice smooth number. We're getting all kinds of spikes and blips everywhere because there's a lot of ferrous material, either iron or steel, and then we will try to correspond our magnetic blips with our sonar blips, or sonar images that we see that looks like something on the bottom, and we've made our list of dive targets. Now I'll tell you the thing we have most commonly found here are crab traps. There are a whole bunch of crab traps in this area of the river. But we have found some more interesting things as well. Now, our vessel cockpit looks a little like a spaceship or something. We've got like five different monitors at the helm of our vessel. We have controls for the magnetometer and a readout for the mag. We have the controls and readout for the side scan sonar. The screen that's highest up is a navigation screen, so the captain can see a little image of our boat and he can follow lines, our survey lines, because we basically just take the boat back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on lanes that are spaced about 15 meters apart. And then we have some other navigational screens as well, our GPS screen and our bottom finder you can see there. So it can be pretty fatiguing work for the boat captain because it's hard to keep that boat on a straight line, and it can be hard. We have folks who are monitoring the images from the sonar and the data from the magnetometer, but otherwise it can be kind of boring because you're just going back and forth. And so this is what the survey boat looks like when we're underway. But every once in a while you get an image on the sonar that is of particular interest. Now, what we're looking at here, we have two separate images. They're of the same object underwater, but our new sonar uses two different frequencies of sound. So it gives us different ranges, and sometimes it can be better resolution. But the big blob that you see on the bottom of each of these separate images is that downed plane, the F4F Wildcat, that was originally discovered by the Sheriff's Department. So we have relocated it, and we have gotten a lot of good sonar images of it. You can actually see the wings. Again, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but there's kind of a horizontal bar going across. That's the wings of the airplane. Not all of it is there, but a good bit of it is there, and no one has dived it in a long time. So we'll be the first divers to dive it in quite a long time, a number of years, I believe. And it'll be interesting to see what its current condition looks like. That plane is just like the tail section we have. That's a Navy Grumman F4F Wildcat. And what's kind of interesting is that the wreckage that is at the bottom of the St. Johns River is missing its tail section. And we have a tail section that came ashore on the beach in the Atlantic Ocean near Ponte Vedra. And I don't think there's any way it could possibly be the same plane, but it's kind of fun to speculate. And one thing that we think we saw, let me go back up. If you look at this image to the left, look at the top image here, and to the left, you see another yellow blob just on the other side of that black zone. That black zone is directly under the survey boat. So that's the nadir zone. You don't see very much of the bottom there. But there's another blob that may be wreckage, and it may be that the Sheriff's Department didn't know about that. So it's possible that we have found the tail of the plane or some other part of the plane. And of course, we have to send divers down to confirm if that object is related to the plane or not. But it's a good distance away. It's maybe 30 feet or so away, something like that. So that'll be something that we will be looking at. We've just began dive operations today, and I can tell you that we began dive operations on Friday. So this is just our third day of diving today, and we actually made a discovery today. So I can report to you, as it seems to be often the case, the SAAA is the first to know about our most recent discoveries, but we have actually found World War II related material on the bottom of the St. Johns River on one of the targets that we identified from our survey. We went down on this target. I can't tell you how pitch black it is. I mean, we're used to working in black conditions, but this is really black conditions. The bottom 2 feet or so of the river is just a fluffy black mud. And you can have a really powerful light in your hands and you can kind of see a little bit above that mud, but as soon as your light goes in that mud, it's just immediate blackout. You can't see a thing. And so we have to go down, stretch out a tape measure, do a circular search to try to find the target, the object that we saw with the sonar. And Ariel and I did that today, and we came across an area of debris on the bottom. And feeling around in the blackness, we felt what seemed to be what felt like kind of an iron box with a handle on it. We felt some objects that turned out to be tool related. We felt a lot of kind of machinery. It felt almost like we were blindly groping on a compressor or something like that. Had a lot of small tubes. And then we felt the object that turned out to be diagnostic, a ceramic, a broken, what appears to be a broken coffee cup. Now we brought these objects up to the surface just to photograph, and then we put them back on the bottom because we don't have a permit to excavate or collect artifacts right now. But these are drill bits. These are pretty big. You can see they're more than 8 inches in length. They're pretty hefty, and they look kind of old. The attachment is different than modern drill bits. We had a little piece of steel tubing or something like that was from some kind of machinery. And then here's the coffee cup, as I was hoping down there in the dark, when we of course couldn't see it. I was hoping there would be a maker's mark, and indeed there was. And you can see that says Car China Company, Grattan, West Virginia, and it has the number 45. And these days we can Google with our phones from the boat, and so we confirmed pretty immediately that 45 does indeed mean that this piece was made in 1945. So we believe we have found an area where a moored vessel was probably throwing surplus junk overboard, and maybe including a broken coffee cup that's from the right time period. But this is our big discovery of the day, and it's our first World War II material that we have found during our survey looking for World War II heritage off Green Cove Springs in the St. Johns River. So that was a pretty exciting discovery for us today. This work is the work at Green Cove is not part of our Hermidams grant. That's a smaller, a small grant. The Hermidams is a special category grant, so it's a larger amount of funding for a 2-year period. We've had to get some extensions because of COVID and other issues, but primarily COVID. But our Hermidams grant, we are looking at 10 different sites and trying to assess if we can, hurricane damage, erosion. And you'll see Crescent Beach wreck is on that list, and Fort Mose is on that list. And so it'll be interesting for us to be going underwater, looking to areas that we know have eroded from land and are now underwater. But you can see there's a lot of other wrecks and other archaeological sites on that list. We're going to be pretty busy. As I mentioned, the day we get back from Green Cove Springs, we immediately take the boat out again, load up with equipment and students, and begin work at Fort Mose. So we will be excavating at Fort Mose from May 11th through the 17th of June. Then we have a little bit of a break in which I will actually be traveling to Cuba for a conference to present on some research that I did down in the Caribbean. We will then have our field school from kind of early mid-July through early August, and we will be excavating at the old lighthouse site that's exposed at low tide, right by the lighthouse. You can see our current lighthouse in the background of that top picture, and we will also be excavating offshore on a shipwreck that is we call the Centerboard Schooner. The Centerboard Schooner dates to the late 1800s. It was discovered all the way back in 1995, excavated some by LAMP in 2002 and 3, that time period before I was part of LAMP. We were planning to do excavation at the Centerboard Schooner in 2008, but I was injured. My shoulder was dislocated while doing field work on that site. And so we had to cut diving short. So we essentially haven't done any serious research on this site in over 20 years. We are going to be excavating down to the hull, which hasn't been seen in more than 20 years. And we want to check the condition of the hull timbers, again, to see if it's possible that hurricanes have eroded enough sediment from the site that organic objects have been exposed, and we might be able to assess damage from the timbers because they were seen, had been seen by archaeologists before. After early August, when we finish on August 5th, we will have some University of Miami students. They want to come down and do a field school with us as well. So this will be our third field school in a row. And we will be diving with them, not on the centerboard schooner, but on some of our other sites, the steamship ballast pile wreck, so a steamship wreck that dates to perhaps mid 1800s to late 1800s. The storm wreck, most of you know that, that's went down in 1782. The industry wreck that was wrecked in 1764. And we will be diving on these sites again to do limited test excavations in areas we have been before so that we can compare the current condition of hull timbers and other organic artifacts to the condition that we have seen before, or that our predecessors at LAMP before I was here have seen before. So that'll take us through August, September. At that point, we have a few other sites we need to look at. This is the Michler's Landing wreck, or the schooner Deliverance, a schooner that wrecked off Michler's Landing in 1947. Sometimes it's exposed. You can see that little black blip out in the water, about 50 feet out into the waves. That is the bow of the schooner. So we sometimes this thing's totally buried, so we may not be able to see it, but hopefully we'll be able to at least visit it and get some data on its current condition. We will be going out to the Guana Peninsula, to our favorite site there, which is the Tolomato Bar anchorage site. And you can see in this picture some remains that are exposed on the foreshore at low tide, including some timbers, some logs, kind of roughly hewn logs in the foreground that were laid out parallel to each other to make a walking surface or a working surface. This area of the coast was certainly the working waterfront for Governor Grant's plantation. Obviously would have been a lot of African labor there in the British period. So this is right after Fort Mose is forced to be abandoned. A lot of enslaved labor is brought in by the new British owners of the land and of this particular colony. And so we're going to be looking at this at low tide, and it's a very interesting site. We were out there recently to check out the site, and we found the remains of a small boat in the mud. So that mud preserves wood really well. And so we're excited that this would be the second vernacular watercraft, or the second small boat that has been found at Guana. And then I think one of the last sites on our list is Little Talbot Island wreck. So we're going to go back to it. This is when it was, we last saw it in 2019. We're going to go back there as well. And so we are going to be working at the very least through the end of October on all of these sites for this grant, and we're hoping to get an extension so that we will have time not only to finish this field work, but to be able to write it all up and still be able to use grant funds to fund us while we are doing the write-up. So that really is an overview of everything we've done the previous year, and it brings us up to our immediate future and what we will be doing for the next, more or less through the end of the year. And so thank you all so much. It's really wonderful, again, to be able to share this with everybody. And I will go ahead and stop sharing now, so that if we have any questions or comments, and I would say if anyone has questions for Sarah's talk, I think we should go ahead and shout out questions for her as well as me, if you guys have any, because maybe you've been thinking of some good questions for her talk. But thank you so much, Don and everybody else.
Well, thank you, Chuck. Fantastic. You guys have been very busy, and we're looking forward to your visit next year to see how you did. Okay, we'll open it up for questions for either one. Don't be shy. You can unmute yourself and fire away. Everyone is stunned.
We've just we've informed them for every facet of knowledge they could possibly wonder about.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Sarah.
I made it. I'm here.
I have a question for you, Sarah.
Yes.
I want to know more about the Zulus. When I did my dissertation research in Ireland, and Zulus and Nobbies were two kinds of boats that were Scottish and Manx, and they were used by the Congested Districts Board, which was kind of an improvement group by the British government. They were used, provided to Irish fishermen, even though they're quite different than the indigenous fishing boats. So I want to hear a little bit about those Zulus, if you know very much. And by the way, you were correct when you said stem and keel and stern. So
you got to help me so I don't look like a total fool. Like, yes, and that would be, yeah, I mean, thanks to Tom and Joe, we got to go to the town where many of them were made. We got to go out, and they had a replica ship there. We got to go see where Lockfleet, where the graveyard was, and Ellie Graham presented on that when she came for Tidally United a couple of years ago. So then we had a surprise. We were in a town, I can't remember the name, just having lunch. And we looked up and they're like, oh my God, it's a Zulu. It's a Zulu. And it was a replica Zulu, but it was geared, it was in use. And to know that we found out there was a shipbuilding group that made Zulus as part of, and thought of the shipbuilding program you guys had too. So this new graveyard, I don't know what this one will be. They just found it last week, and it's the importance of getting out with the public, having talks like tonight, because as they were out working with the public, they had a woman, and they said she was in her 90s, but she's like, Sarah, you would not, she looked half that age. She's got secrets, more secrets than just about boats, but she was mentioning, oh yeah, where the boats were. She's like, then they asked her where the boats ended up, and she's like, oh, they ended up here. Because one of the interesting things of Lockfleet is that there's a story that they were burned in protest, by maybe the sailors, and it's this 100-year-old story. It's even in the newspaper that's what happened. It was this protest where they burned the boats all together, where the Zulus were found, but they did archival work and found that's not true. They were just more abandoned and left. They moved to other types of ships and transitioned off there. So this dramatic telling of the fire never happened, and none of them had any evidence of being burned. So that was their first hint, like, wait a minute, none of these are burned. So I think it's interesting how the deposition happens, the stories people tell after, and I'll get back to you. I'll report back after June and see more, but I've been told to expect that they will be, similar to what you saw of how they're in the tidal zone, and exciting to get them at low tide while we're there.
That's great.
Okay,
yeah, and I'm
questions?
sure you saw our canoe too, and we're like, oh, I want to get out on that canoe. Have you guys done much work on other canoes in the last year or two?
Not since the canoe in Pellisier Creek that you guys knew about, I think, as well. That canoe, where was that one again? I didn't catch that when you were talking.
It's been Brevard County. That's the general information I'll share about it, because we're still trying to get it documented and looked at. But actually, I don't know. Emma went, so Brevard County. But yeah, Nigel had a story too of another. But good to see you, Chuck. Good to see you, Don.
Okay, any other questions
And
before
soon
we
my
wrap
light,
it up? Well, I want to thank the both of you for the interesting talk. We're looking forward to you folks returning. I think this is the third time you've been Zoomed on an SAAA meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone realizes, normally the speakers and the SAAA members go out to dinner before the lecture. So we owe Chuck and Sarah at least 3 dinners. So we'll be making them up for you.
You are
I
correct,
forgot.
Don.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
2020,
keeping track.
2021, 2022. Wow, I totally forgot the one in between.
Yeah, no, it was 3 times. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Again, this is it until September. The next meeting will be on the 6th of September, hopefully in Flagler. This is being recorded, so if anybody joined us late, want to take a look at the beginning of the meeting, feel free. Anyone who missed the meeting entirely, you can just tell them we'll be on YouTube, and it'll probably be out there sometime tomorrow.
Hey,
So with that, I
Don,
just wish everyone a happy summer.
Don,
And,
could I make a quick announcement?
Sure.
So this is a more of a plea for help than an announcement, but we have because we have lost Nick Budsberg, the Lighthouse, our museum, is going to help us hire 2 temporary archaeologists for 3 months. So we are able to pay 2 graduate students, one from East Carolina University and one from Oxford University, to work with us this summer for 3 months. But we need housing for them. Our field house is full because of fire codes. And I don't know if anyone listening might have any ideas for us. If someone has a room that they wouldn't mind letting a grad student live in for a few months, we could use that kind of help. So I might see if I can send an email out to all the SAAA membership, because I know you folks have always been so supportive. But if anyone has any ideas or knows anywhere we might be able to put 2 students up for 3 months during the summer, that would really help us out and help these young people come have an opportunity to actually get paid to do archaeology in St. Augustine.
Okay, we'll get in touch with you, and we can zip something out to the membership on the email. That'd be fine.
That'd be great. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, and again, as the song goes, we'll see you in September. Have a very safe and happy summer, and we're looking forward to meeting again in September live at the Flagler Room.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, folks.